Alright guys, I hear you. I hear you. What's in that Hi-Capa, man? Go over that Hi-Capa build. Tell us what parts are inside. You know, why do you have this? Why do you have that? So on and so forth. So, today, I'm finally gonna go over what my build is and what I have inside. So you guys can stop asking. I'm just kidding. I like when you guys ask questions. Before we get started with that, little side note, I am partnered with LaCapa Customs now. There will be a referral link in the description where you can get most, if not all, of the parts that I have in my Hi-Capa from them. If you do use my link, it does help me out, and I appreciate it if you click it. On the front, Ace Tech Tracer. Right now, I am using the Brighter C. I used to run the Bifrost on everything, and I have that right here. The Bifrost is the one that does the muzzle flash. You can change the colors, it does rainbow BBs, all that cool stuff. The reason I had switched to the Brighter C was because I was doing a lot of competition play, and if you can see up here, this little plastic ring, when you fire, that whole thing lights up with UV light, and it's very, very bright. I like to call it the dodge indicator. When you're playing against someone who is using one of these, it is going to flash directly at you and let you know to duck. Up top for my sights on this build, I am running the AIP front sight. Reason I run that is it's a nice big dot, as you can see. And up on the top, it has a silver finish, so the light will come in and reflect back up onto the optic, which makes it super bright even when there's not very much ambient light around you. For the rear sight, this is the Cow, and I have the Cow fiber rear plate that you can get separately and attach onto the Cow rear sight. Same thing as with the AIP, it's got silver on the top so the light reflects back into the fibers. Why? I actually use my sights when I'm playing. I know a lot of people just do point shooting, you know, by feel, and that's completely fine. I can do that too. But the thing is, when your Hi-Capa is tuned and you know exactly where it's going to shoot every single time, and you want to get those sweet one balls, it does not make sense to not use your sights, so you know when someone comes around a corner, does a little quick peek, and you're aiming down your sights right where they're gonna be, and you know you got it. 10 out of 10 times. One thing I'm going to point out right now, this is a almost exclusively Airsoft masterpiece build. That does not mean that I necessarily have the best aftermarket parts in this thing. I wanted to do a full AM build, so that's what I did. The first thing off the bat I want to talk about is the slide stop, Airsoft masterpiece slide stop. This thing is tight. These are so tight that you actually need a tool to pop it out, which makes field stripping very inconvenient. So I do not recommend the AM slide stops if that's important to you, the ease of being able to take it off. So let me line it up real quick. I'm gonna pop it out right now. Hear how much force that took? Yeah, that's how it is. Whatever. All right, let's pull the slide off. So for the upper, for my slide, I have the LaCapa Wildcat slide. If you're trying to find this exact slide for your build, good luck. What LaCapa does is whenever they come out with a new slide, they'll do a limited run, and then they'll never make them again. But if you want one that looks similar to mine, LaCapa has the Jungle Cats. They are now live on the store. Very similarly styled to the LaCats, and you can get them in all the colors that LaCapa has. So over here on the bottom, I have an Airsoft Masterpiece stainless steel 5.1 guide rod. Reason I went with the stainless is it's not a big difference, but there is, it's a little bit smoother feeling during the action and racking and things like that when the spring is crunching over it. For the guide plug, I have a 4.3 guide plug. This one's an AM aluminum. I would have a stainless steel if I could find one, but this one was just laying around, so I threw it in there. And the reason I use a 4.3 guide plug over a 5.1, even though it is a 5.1 upper, is it allows you to add more short stroke buffers for a snappier recoil. I used to run 4 plus the washer. Right now I only have 3 in here because I was having some nozzle spring issues, and we'll talk about that later. The only drawback to using a 4.3 guide plug in a 5.1 is, how do you get it out of there? Someone may yell at me for this, I don't really care. Take it through here, pop it out, super cinchy, right? Keep something like this in your toolbox. For the recoil spring, I have the Waldo Customs 130% Snappy Boy. This one has been in use for probably around 8 months. You can see most of the finish is worn off of it. Still going strong, no issues with it. I like 130%. The reason you may want to upgrade your recoil spring is to speed up the action of your slide returning the battery after firing. Allows you to do quicker follow-up shots. That's the only purpose. Upgrade to a 150 for a stock slide. It's going to last a very long time. And you can use a 150 with a metal slide too. It's going to come down to preference in the end. So as the strength of the spring goes up, you get less recoil and faster shots. So if you're trying to do the ultimate race gun, I mean, you can throw in a 150 and just pop all day. For the short stroke buffers in this build, I have the Cow. Right now I'm using 2 blacks, which is the hardest, and 1 blue one at the end, just for a little bit of cushion, with the with the washer on the end of it to catch the spring. If you don't put a washer at the end, your spring's going to dig into your buffers and it's not going to be good. Alright, for the rest of the upper, let me go ahead and pull out the outer barrel and hop up. So for the outer barrel, surprise, Airsoft Masterpiece steel outer barrel. I really like these. They are heavy. If you want more weight to your gun, pick one of these up. It'll add a little bit more to it. The main reason why I like them is, again, because it is steel. The action's a little bit smoother when things are rubbing up against it as opposed to aluminum. And also they have the thread adapter is machined into it, so it's not an extra piece. So if you have, say, a Cow thread adapter on your outer barrel and you go to screw on your tracer, you'll know that if you accidentally over tighten it, you're going to end up loosening the adapter off of the barrel and vice versa. It's a pain in the ass. AMs, this one at least comes built in. I always add an O-ring at the end of the threads for my adapters, and that's for the tracer to have something to bite onto at the end. If you don't have an O-ring, it's just going to bottom out and it's not really going to stay tight. With the recoil, you're going to notice it's loosening over time. But with the O-ring, you can see that, hear that? Super snug. It's not going anywhere. And this O-ring, AIP sells a 4-pack of O-rings. I think it's like $5 or something like that. And their intended use is for up here in the nozzle cylinder head. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But dual purpose, put them on the end of your thread adapters. Everyone's going to think you're genius. Moving on to the inner barrel assembly. This is the Airsoft Masterpiece brass hop-up unit with the brass wheel as well. I will say, if you are upgrading your first Hi-Capa or you're like in the middle of a build, this isn't 100% necessary. The stock hop-up will give you roughly 80% of the accuracy that you're looking for out of your build, as long as you upgrade the inner barrel and bucking as well. They're not terrible. But if you do feel that your accuracy is lacking shot to shot, or your trajectory isn't as flat as you like it, then these will give you more consistency. I believe these are the best on the market at the moment until LaCapa comes out with TDC hop units. Those will be coming somewhat soon, and I'm going to get my hands on those and tell you what I think about them. For the inner barrel, I have a 9-ball 6.00. This is 5.1 length. I believe it's 113 millimeters. The difference between 6.00 and 6.01 in regards to accuracy, I haven't really noticed a difference. And it's going to be personal preference, I believe. The main reason I went with 6.00 is for a little bit more FPS boost. It's not much. I think you'll get like maybe 10 or 15 over the 6.01, but when you're trying to tune everything to be right where you want it to be, this is an option to give you that little boost. For the bucking in here, you can see I have a Maple Leaf Decepticon 60-degree bucking. These things are awesome. The reason I am running this bucking right now instead of the LaCapa green flat hop bucking, which I also love, is because it's getting colder outside. And with the LaCapa bucking, it's softer material, so you're going to lose a little bit of FPS. somewhere around 20 to 30, I believe. It probably tops out at around 30. So in the summer, when it gets hot outside and my gun is shooting hot because it's tuned right up towards the indoor field limits, I'll swap to the green bucking and I'll be able to stay under again. Don't get me wrong, LaCapa bucking, I much prefer it over the maple leaf for the accuracy, but it's just too cold right now, so it is what it is. Moving on to the rest of the upper, we have, this is an Airsoft Masterpiece Edge blowback unit. I don't know which version it is because I got it secondhand a long time ago before this build. I think it's one of the first gens, not 100% sure. The reason you may want to get an aftermarket blowback unit is for upgraded durability, since these are CNC aluminum instead of the pot metal type material that comes stock with the Marui Hi-Capas. I know some people swear by the original blowback unit, and they're fine, don't get me wrong. I've never had one break. They still offer good performance, but if you want to get a little bit extra more out of your gun or lighten up the slide for faster cycle time, that's why you would go for an aftermarket blowback unit. For the nozzle, right now I have an Airsoft Masterpiece Edge in here. This is the blue one. Haven't had any problems with it, been running it for about 4 or 5 months. No breakages, everything's been good. Prior to this, I had run the AIP gray ones, which also did fine. There may be some compatibility issues in between the nozzles and the blowback housings. I'm not 100% on that. I just know what's been working for me. And the reason I upgraded to an Edge and also the AIP was not really out of necessity. I was running the stock Marui nozzle, which I really love, but that ended up breaking. It cracked after several months of use and also hot weather use. For the nozzle spring right now, I have an AIP 140%. They're okay. They seem to wear out rather quickly. You can see there's a little, can I see it here? There's a little gap. It retracts like 99% of the way, but not 100% of the way, and it's a little sluggish near the end. These break in rather quickly. Like after one game day, you're gonna get this little slack. As long as your slide's still cycling and your BBs are feeding, it's not a big issue. I know there's stronger percentage springs out there, like I don't know the brand of it, but there's like 180% up on LaCapa. Those are the way to go if you want to make sure your nozzle's going back every time. And this brings me back to why I am only running 3 buffers right now for the short stroke instead of 4. I can fit 4 in and it'll load and it'll feed. But the problem I run into is that with these 140% nozzle return springs, enough to bother me. I won't say it's every single time, it's fairly frequent enough, but when the slide cycles back, the nozzle will get stuck on the gas router and it won't retract all the way, which means it's not going to feed the next BB. I've had it happen quite a few times. It'll result in dry fires. I've never had double feeds, but I did get a lot of dry fires, and it doesn't matter how much you lube it, it's just because of the strength of the spring in there. So definitely, if you're trying to run the maximum amount of short stroke buffers that you can, go for the highest nozzle return spring strength that you can. So for the frame, this is the Airsoft Masterpiece Advanced frame. Comes in 3.9. It's the same length as a 4.3, and it has the nice integrated rail on the bottom. You probably noticed in my videos I don't use my light too much, but the main purpose for me running a light on my Hi-Capa is to get a little bit of extra weight on the front of it to balance it out. It helps me out a lot. Your results may vary. You may think I'm crazy, but yeah, it's there for the weight and also for stability when I'm holding it. Stock Marui frames are okay. They are cast from whatever pot metal they use, which means you're going to end up with a lot of flash on the rails and other random parts. When you go to put on an aftermarket slide, you're going to have to, if you've watched any other Hi-Capa videos, they tell you always have to break in your slides. And what they mean by that is, since there is flash casting coming off of the sides, they're telling you that you need to work your slide along the frame so that it'll shave down the extra flash off of the rails. 9.9 times out of 10, if you put an aftermarket slide on, you can work it out and it's going to be fine. The thing to remember is when you are breaking in and working your slide on your stock frame, you're going to work it, you know, maybe for like 30 seconds to a minute. Take your slide off and wipe it down with paper towels. Make sure you get all the little pieces of metal and shavings that are coming off of there out of there. These can cause catastrophic failures and you may not know what's going on. Most people don't upgrade their frame, and there's really no reason to unless you want to get a specific color for it, or maybe yours had whack casting. One of the advantages of these frames is they have a full-length rail on the inside as opposed to the Maruis, which are chopped off in the middle, and since they are CNC aluminum, they are much lighter. As far as performance goes on this frame, it's definitely a smoother action from your slide running across it, and the tolerances are okay. They're definitely better than Marui, but they're still not perfect, and you think they would be being CNC aluminum. Let's see, line up the back here. So you can see it's pretty tight, but there's still side-to-side play on it. But with the full-length rails on the inside, it is very smooth. You can hear that. It is very nice. Moving on to the internals, I don't know too much about these. You know, I know a lot about Hi-Capas, but I don't know too much about the internal tuning of them. So whatever came with my advanced frame is what's in here as far as that. For the hammer, I have the Airsoft Masterpiece Spur hammer. I call it that because it looks like a cowboy spur. For the safeties, side safeties, Airsoft Masterpiece, rear safety, Airsoft Masterpiece. With the thumb safeties, these are much smoother than the stock Hi-Capa ones that come on the Maruis. With these, they are pricey. They're like 70 bucks. But if you're trying to perfect the look of your build, I mean, what choice do you have? Also, there is no wear on these at all, even though I'm constantly setting my Hi-Capa down at the field and things like that because it's steel. Super durable, super nice. Moving down to the trigger. This is a Speed trigger. I believe that's the name of the brand too, Speed. I really like these triggers. They have ball bearings at the bottom, or not ball bearings, they have roller bearings at the bottom and the top. So the pull is super smooth. Hear that? So this trigger I have paired with an Airsoft Masterpiece steel trigger bar. Again, Marui trigger bar is 100% fine for most people. The benefit of going with the AM or the LaCapa is there's a little tab that they put in there, but what that does is lets you adjust the pull on your trigger. But you see how this little wiggle I have here? I have mine set fairly loose because I take more determined shots and I like to keep my finger on the trigger with a little bit of pressure. But I do have the option of totally eliminating this play right here so that the trigger just sits on the wall at all times. If that's something you're interested in, which a lot of people are, upgrade your trigger bar. That's what does it. For my sear spring, in here is an Airsoft Masterpiece as well. The reason I went with that one is because I just wanted to have an almost full Airsoft Masterpiece build just to see how it would perform. I do prefer the Cow Trident sears. They have a much lighter trigger pull. The Airsoft Masterpiece, it's a little, I don't want to say chunky, you know, but it's firm. If you're taking deliberate, you know, one taps or two taps on somebody, you know, it feels really nice. But if you're more of the type of player that likes to do a lot of follow-up shots, doing like 3, 4, 5, 6, the Cow Trident sear will let you follow up quicker, and it's also a much lighter pull. Coming down to the grip, surprise, Airsoft Masterpiece. I believe this one's called the Diamond Grip. You'll usually see these with the Diamond skateboard grip tape around. I chose not to put those on there because I think it looks better without it, and I can still grip it just fine. I'm not slipping around or anything like that. These grips are very expensive. No need to upgrade to these. It's purely for looks and you know, your preference. One thing I will say about the AM base plates, or sorry, magwells, AM Infinity magwell. One thing I will say about these is they do not fit the stock Marui base plates. So in my case, in order to use my mags with this gun without having to spend more money on AM base plates, is I had to shave off, let's see if you can see, around these edges right here. Come on, focus. Focus. I had to shave off the edge of my base plates, the top of them, because when you put them in, they would sit right on the edge and they wouldn't let you click all the way in. I do know LaCapa, their magwells, they do fit with the stock base plates, so that's a huge plus for those. Those also come in every color that you want, like every other LaCapa part. Alright, so that wraps up this video. If you made it this far, appreciate you. You're the reason why my channel is steadily growing, and can't thank you enough for that. If you didn't know, I do have some pretty sick patches and stickers up on my website, vlnt.net. Everything goes towards supporting the channel and allowing me more time to make videos and show you guys some cool stuff. So check it out if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys on the next one.